Hey everyone, I'm Anthony Gethers.
And I'm Greg Weiss.
And we are good dudes with bad hearts.
No, literally. Our hearts are broken.
I have heart failure.
And I have a transplant.
We never thought we'd have heart problems.
But we do.
And they're real.
And they suck. And that's why we're here.
To talk to you about heart failure,
heart attacks, and everything that comes with these conditions.
Each week we will bring you an episode featuring guests with heart issues.
We're talking about doctors and health professionals.
And we're talking about everyday people.
Like you and I. Together, we'll share useful information.
Providing useful lifestyle tips.
And how to prepare heart-healthy meals.
We'll tell our stories and hopefully make your hearts
better.
Welcome to Change of Heart.
Hey everyone, I'm Anthony Gethers, and this is my co-host,
Greg Weiss. Glad to be here again.
Awesome, and welcome to Change of Heart. Today we're with a very cool guest. His name is Randall Martin. Randall Martin, say hello.
Hey, how you guys doing? So glad to be on your show.
Well, great to see you again.
Randall and I played music. We've done several things together as projects. We have a long history with each other. Randall also has a radio show of his own. He's also an engineer. You're just an overall Renaissance man. But here today we're talking about your overall health, in particular your heart. Like the one thing we all have in common besides being musicians, Randall's a drummer. Greg and I are both bass players. Greg also plays guitar. I'm a hack guitar player. But besides being musicians, the one thing we have in common as well, in addition to being musicians, is we have crappy heart.
Well,
with kind of bad hearts. So Randall, tell us your history.
I don't know if I have a crappy heart, but I did get a surprising diagnosis. And as you said, you know, at our age, you don't really think about your heart. You know, we still, even though we're at a certain age, we in our minds think of ourselves as being like 16 or 17 years old. Like we have a young mind. To me, I mean, I still consider myself like in my 20s and very active. And you play music and you're on stage and you're doing different things, and you just think that I'm not invincible, but I am very healthy and I'm immune to heart issues. And I was surprised when I went to the doctor that I was not immune to having heart issues, and in fact, he pointed out some stuff that really made me concerned and made me make a change in my lifestyle.
Okay, so when did you find out that you had some irregular heart, or just say heart irregularity? Like when did you find out?
Well, it started, I was doing an interview on a podcast and with a doctor, and she was talking about health. And we were talking all around the subject of different types of health, of prostate health, of all the different things of kind of male issues. And I just asked her, and just an incidental question about the heart. I said, should I get my heart looked at, like you would do your car? When your car has a certain amount of miles, you want to get a sort of a status and an update. And I said, is that something that you could get from the hospital and from your physician? Well, she said, yes, certainly you should be proactive. You have to go in and be the best advocate, your best advocate. And a couple of years earlier, I had an incident where I was exercising, and then I felt a little shortness of breath. And then I went to the hospital, and really nothing kind of came of it. I really didn't do anything about it. And they didn't seem to worry about it. But I said, given that, I want to know. I'm in my early 60s, and I want to know what is the condition of my heart so I can make adjustments. And so I went to the doctor, and they did a series of different tests. And even though one of the tests came back with sort of what they call an occlusion, it was like they couldn't fully see. She said, I could tell by the vessels, like your heart muscle was okay, but the vessels around your heart, especially on the left side, which pumps I think he said 70% of all the blood, there was an issue. And that, they didn't really know, but that a lifestyle change was definitely required. And that shocked me.
Okay, so you said you were exercising. What kind of exercise were you doing? Was it weightlifting? Was it cardio based?
I was not a real cardio enthusiast. I'm more of a bench press kind of person. I do a lot of the vanity muscles. I do a lot of I can lift like 225. And just recently, when I was on a cruise and I was benching, and another older guy was benching that, and it kind of inspired me. And so to go back, because I hadn't done it in many years, and I could, and so I was back in the gym, really kind of lifting very heavy weights, but mainly because of the physique, not for a health conscious thing. I just wanted my physique to be better.
In the
So
gym, we call those C muscles. Those are the muscles that you can visually look at.
yes.
But in the long run, it's funny that you mentioned that, because you do the C muscles that everyone sees: the chest, the shoulders, your biceps. But the one that's the most important one, as we all know, is the heart. Everyone knows
Absolutely.
the hard way.
Well,
Randall.
like so many people, I didn't even have a thought in my head about, your heart. What could be wrong with my heart? I don't smoke. I don't drink. A moderate amount of exercise. I walk, I do whatever I had to do, but I have been noticing over the years that if I moved quickly or did a lot of like rapid movements in a very quick pace, I would get very winded. So I was a little bit concerned, but basically I wasn't aware or concerned that it could lead to something serious. And so I did the test, and I thought, okay, well, this is this was serious, the way the way that she described it. And she said, you really have to look out for yourself, and make sure that you do these things. She gave me some cholesterol medicine and all of that. But actually, when we spoke about what happened to you, it really prompted me to even be more serious, because I just thought, okay, doctors are always very cautious, and they always kind of give you these uh diagnosis that may be overblown. They have a different perspective. But when and I know that you're in great shape, always going to the gym. And when I heard about what developed after your trip, it really, quite frankly, was a wake-up call.
Randall, if I can step in, I'm hearing a lot. What I'm not hearing is, what were you eating? Are you a steak and potatoes guy with cheese on the potato, or were you
No.
a tofu broccoli enthusiast?
Well, definitely not the second one. I mean, the third one, but I think I had cut down beef and pork about 2 years ago, and just because getting older, I just felt like I should. And I forget what was the issue. Maybe it was my earlier kind of heart scare. And I said, that's what I'm going to do. So I rarely eat beef, sometimes eat pork, basically a lot of chicken and fish. But I had started to, go back to my old diet, a hamburger here or this or that. But I do eat a lot of fried food.
Are you still eating a lot of fried foods?
I am no, not nearly as much.
I was gonna say,
I'm not totally abstinence of
Okay.
fried food, but I
You're
do
not
eat.
totally abstaining
No.
from it, but yeah. Well, I was going to say to you, if you were, I was going to jump through here and choke the hell out of you. If you were still eating fried foods. Like,
Well,
I will try and stop him, of course, but
and then we'd all be in the hospital,
we'd all be in the hospital with heart problems.
respirators. But it is so surprising to get a diagnosis about something that you didn't expect, but that is the way that it goes. And being older, we have to expect that our body changes, and that we ought to change with it. We ought to change our eating habits. We ought to be more sophisticated in our food selections. And I had realized that a lot of what I eat, is, because when you're traveling, you're playing music, a lot of times you go out, and it's the greasy spoon thing. You're out there and you're eating, there's hamburgers and fries and this and that. And even though I had given up a lot of the beef, and hot dogs, there's still a lot of fat, and the cholesterol that builds up is in your system. And when I asked the doctor, I said, hey, don't you just clean it out? Don't you just, roll the root of that cholesterol out and, make it all like new? Yeah. And they were like, no, what we got to do is just make your vein bigger, but it just, the stuff just rides over the new stuff in your, in your blood vessels, just rides over the better cholesterol that's already there. And I was shocked. And like I wish someone had told me that in my 70s. And I'm talking to my kids now to say, hey, don't change your diet now so that you don't have your cell linings with plaque and cholesterol. And so, I wish I knew then what I know now, which is probably what a lot of people say, with heart disease. But now that's why your show is so important. It's a change of heart. It really indicates a change in your mind and in your habits to do better and eat better and make a commitment to yourself, because if you can't
when you find out too late, you wish you knew beforehand.
Yes.
And when we spoke last, a lot of things that you were talking about rang true as we proceeded to interview people with different change of heart episodes. And what I mean by that is you don't know whether it's going to be in maybe in your case it was a ventricle that wasn't pumping as hard, or in some cases it was a heart valve, and in other cases it was a child-born illness or defect,
right,
that was overcome by literally by diet and exercise, and it's one of those things that you never want to believe that you're going to be sick, how you're going to be sick, and when it's going to happen to you. And it's one of these I wish I knew beforehand. And just to extend on that, one of the things that I'm sure you were asked that we've heard from everybody we've interviewed was the same thing: is what was your family history?
Well, my mom did die. I mean, that's a very good question, because my mom did pass away of heart disease, and my dad had cancer. But I'm sure I'm sure because of the way they ate, they had
impression
poor
upon you
as well, because poor heart condition, because I was raised where it was the meat and potatoes and rice and gravy and all that stuff, and that was the meal, and the green stuff was just a garnish, and it was purely optional.
Yeah.
But meat was the main thing, and I never thought, "Ooh, can gravy be bad for you? Can butter? What? Butter's delicious. Gravy, fried food, it's delicious. Why? How could that be bad for you?" And now I understand, and that's why I think a show that explores that really helps give you the ammunition to change your life, because it's hard. And I'm sure that you experience the same thing when you think, just a one more hamburger or one more French fry or whatever. This little bit's not going to harm me. Even over the weekend, there were some things that I ate that I probably wouldn't have. And I do have the attitude of, I could have a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of that. But that little bit does add up. And I think about it when I eat it, and I see, and I'm trying to train my mind out of those things, because those little things add up, and what they're adding up to could be debilitating heart disease that kind of sidelines you.
A question that I have is, are you heavily medicated? And I'm not talking about, buzzy illegal substances. I'm talking about heart meds. Are you on water pills?
No, I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't drink. And I'm on, what I'm on is a cholesterol medicine.
Okay.
That's what they were really concerned with. And let me just say this. I'm on Repatha, which is now, I'm like on my, I don't know, the third month of this. I've been wanting this medication for years. The statins really hurt my muscles.
You actually wanted the medication?
Well, yeah, because they told me that my cholesterol was super high, and I wanted to get it down. And Repatha is like a shot, and I'm not, and so that you get every 2 weeks, and it really drops your cholesterol. The statins, like the Repatha, can drop your cholesterol by like 40-50%. Like the statins, it drops by 12%. And if it hurts your muscles, it's like, as active as I am, and you're playing drug, like I didn't want that. I didn't want to feel like a trepidation not to do something because my arm is hurting because of this medication. So I had to advocate myself for years. It was like when I found out about it was 2 years ago. I
Okay.
just got the prescription
Wow.
filled like I think 2 months ago. So you really have to advocate for yourself, because these insurance companies they don't really care about you. I mean, I don't know the peace of mind does. They don't really want to get to the root of the problem, and they only want to give you stuff when you're desperately ill. And I've been trying to head this off. So I say to you and all your listeners that be your own best advocate. And if the doctor says this is something that can benefit you, do what you have to do to make your insurance company pay for it. Or if you have to pay or have a copay, do it, because it's worth it. In the long run, don't sacrifice not having the right medicine, because again, when the heart disease is so serious that when it happens, when you get over that tipping point, you're near death. And so there's, so whatever money that you save, is only going to maybe go for your funeral. So advocate and be persistent.
Well, speaking from the other side of the tipping point, I've been very lucky with my insurance, and
Okay.
they've paid for a lot. And I don't want to say how much a lot is, because it's probably more than most would ever receive or get from the services. But I've had stents, I had the LVAD inserted, I had a balloon pump before that, and then eventually the transplant with all the medications. And in my previous life, when I was paying with co-pays, it was a lot of money to get regular heart pills. And you just reminded me that today is actually my diabetes shot day, my once a week. How often is the shot that you take for the cholesterol?
It's every 2 weeks. Matter of fact, today is the day that I'm supposed to take it.
Ironically, it's Mondays, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And but this is my fear. My concern is this. You obviously have pretty good insurance. My insurance is fair to middling. I am lucky that they're paying for this. But my concern is that if I were to have a cardiac event, they put the stent in and they did whatever they had to do. I feel, I'm not going to defame my insurance company. You guys don't know what, but
we don't talk names. We don't talk doctors. We don't talk about.
Don't say names. Don't say mine.
But I feel like if there was an $8 product and a $3 product, or an $800 stent, and it was the $300 stent, they'd be picking a $300 stent and installing it, and it might, like, the $300 stent might only last, and and maybe it's a $3,000 versus a $8,000 or $80,000. I just feel like they would take the cheapest way out. And so if you're in a situation where you don't really have great insurance, I'm self-employed, self-insured, so I feel like I don't want to be at the mercy. I don't want to be at that table where somebody's making financial decisions and saying, well, we could save his life for $300,000, or, we could do this minimum amount of care and whatever, or what is, they look at it analytically, and I don't want to be at someone's mercy. So I am trying to do everything I can not to be on that operating table, so that somebody's making that decision of life and death based on whatever factors that they are.
I was in that position, and I agree with you. And while I didn't take the advice that you're giving me now, I hung on as long as I can with my self-employment and my private insurance, and spent a bunch of years without insurance trying to be self-employed. And it was mostly maintenance on my heart. And fortunately, lo and behold, I ended up switching a career that didn't really pay enough to live on. And what that benefited me for in New York State was it gave me no copay full insurance. And I had no idea what that was going to bring until I had 2 heart attacks in one day. And what I noticed is I don't want to say this the wrong way, but health insurance at a certain level is universal, and they weren't looking at who you were to save you based upon a dollar. because I became what they would call a medical asset. That the more they could bill on me and the more I couldn't pay, the harder they did bill and the more services they gave me.
That's very interesting. I never really looked at it.
Well, until you're in the position, you don't acknowledge it, because like when I had the heart attacks and then I had the stents and the stents didn't work. I'm getting transferred downstate into the Bronx, and now they're looking at me as, you have insurance and it's just all going to be covered. And I'm going, what do you mean it's going to be covered? Covering what? Well, first it was ICU, then it was your medications, and then it was these procedures that are going to come up. And I mean, down the road and at the end of the road, I'm looking at, I've already had 2 rib-breaking heart surgeries, one to install an LVAD, and then one to install a new heart. And I'm happy to say that I'm not looking back at what I owe, because there's all kinds of conflicting attitudes and results from things like this. And it's hard. Some services you get everything, and what I'm learning is in other services I'm not getting anything. And that I could walk into an office and say I want X, Y, and Z done, and they'll say, well, X is covered, but Y and Z, but Y and Z, now you owe 30 grand. Yeah, and
let me jump into this one, Greg. Just 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay, so Randall, I want to ask you this: How old were your parents when they passed away? And this is a two-part question. How old were they when they passed away? And how old were you when you realized that you had cholesterol issues?
My mom passed away at 66, so I think like 5 years from now. For me, like 5 years later than I am right now, 4 or 5 years later. And my dad at 75. So, and I'm very surprised that my dad smoked and drank most of his life. My mom smoked and drank. So I am surprised of this. And they probably had the things that I have at this time, but they didn't really pay attention to it. So they just, they kept moving, because I just hate the fact that healthcare is a function of your economics. And Greg, it's great that these guys are doing it, because it sounds like your healthcare to date is probably cost some company,
I'm not divulging.
but I'm guessing over $1 million probably, right?
I'm going to say without giving away numbers.
Okay.
You're way low.
Yep.
What about you, Anthony? You just had several. You spent a couple of weeks in the hospital. I'm guessing that the bill for that was probably $700,000-$800,000, if not over $1 million.
It was. I'm not going to divulge the numbers, but it was expensive.
It was a lot.
Yeah, but insurance covered it, and honestly, when people make fun of our country, like, look, we have our crap here. But the one thing I tell people all the time, man, I'd rather it happen here in America than not happen.
Right. Well, you don't want to be in that situation, especially, again, in today's economics, where somebody's making that calculus about, is it affordable for us to keep this guy going, and how long, and at what point are we going to shut it off or not? And I don't want to be on the other end of it. So whatever I can do now to educate myself and to be better and to prolong that. And as you said, Greg, you don't know, is it hereditary? Is it lifestyle? Is it what you eat? Well, I can't control my DNA and my hereditary traits, but what I can control is how much exercise I do and what I eat.
Yes.
And
actually, comment on what you're saying. A doctor once told me, he goes, as of recently, he goes, it's not so much genetics. It's not so much of being hereditary. He basically said that you adopt your parents' shitty habits.
Yes.
So if your parents eat, if they eat badly, you tend to adopt those habits. And unfortunately, in today's society where everything is instant gratification, so that fast food comes quickly, obviously, 5-minute rice. You go there to get these sandwiches where there's so many starches, so many carbs. It's like you're You literally are walking around every day. You're just stacking on that stuff, and it's so easy to do it. You need a bag of chips. You got 25 grams. Yeah, 25 grams of sugar and a 12-ounce can of Coke or Pepsi. So you just have a few of those per day, and you just stack it up you add it on to the years, and you're a big mess. And then people look and go, I don't know how this happened.
Well, the other thing is that becoming the big mess is what keeps half the health industry employed. Is these options and these bad choices are out there, so you do get sick and you do get diabetes and you do get heart disease, and it's the stress and it's the surreal lifestyle that pushes you into all these bad habits that you literally burn out. And I'm pretty sure that's what happened to me. Is eventually you think all the bad choices are normal ones, and you're eating fast foods and you're not sleeping right, and you're in a band that's playing 3 days a week till 3 o'clock in the morning, and then you got a job that starts at 9 a.m. and you're on the gerbil wheel, and the next thing you know is the two things keeping you awake are nicotine and caffeine. And
I was about to say that you end up slurping coffee, all
6
the
a
time
day,
because
7 a day.
and it's terrible for you. And as you said, when you go out, almost everything that you eat is bad for you. Like I was proud of myself on my last gig. I played in Woodstock last Saturday, and I ordered a salad and with chicken on the side, and it was so they gave me the salad and just a chicken breast that was not fried, and it was delicious. It was, and I was good with that. 2 years ago, I would have just ordered a burger, and that would be
Woodstock's organic, so they're looking out for you.
I know for a fact you were probably chowing down on that salad, and then you had the chicken that was probably grilled. And as you were taking a bite of that chicken, you're probably saying, "Damn it, I wish it was
fried."
Wish it was fried.
No, I didn't because I'm associating. I'm making those powerful associations with with the negative consequences. Like you see you see the fried food, and then I picture somebody who I feel would be eating fried food constantly, and do I want to be that guy? No, I don't want to be that guy. So I'm changing. I'm making those mental correlations to say I don't want to do that. And then when I came back from a rehearsal, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to get an Impossible Burger because that's it's not the burger. It's like a vegetarian. It's not a vegetarian, but it's non-meat. It's a non-meat patty. But the salt and all the other stuff that they had to put
makes
on
it worse.
Right, to make it good.
Still processed food. It's just not processed animal food. That's all it is. It's still processed.
Right. And that's the other thing. Like all your food, there's so much processed food. It's almost impossible to eat well out. And so what I've started to do is I take food with me. I take the beverage that I want, and I'll make myself a tuna fish sandwich and something like that. And then I'm good. I'm not at the mercy of the venue to feed me garbage.
Well, speaking as a musician, the downfall of our culture is the fact that we don't have 24-hour diners anymore. And the 24-hour diner was the hotbed of gluttony after a gig. And like Randall said, I'm traveling an hour into the woods in Pennsylvania to go play, but now I'm stocking up a cooler bag with cottage cheese and blueberries, and I'm bringing my Quaker oat bar that only has 100 calories in it, so I'm not going to do that much damage. And I'm bringing the sparkling water with no calories in it when it used to be a 300-calorie Arizona, and it used to be a bag of Yodels. And Wise barbecue chips coated in salt and fat, and all that's changed.
All good stuff.
It is good, so we can't deny it. It tastes good, but it's a deceptive feeling. It tastes good, but it's doing damage on the inside. And you gotta see it for what it is. We gotta grow up. We're not kids. You might be kids in our heads, but as a responsible adult, and I thought about this the other. I want to be there. I have one grandkid, which I love her and I adore, and but I have 2 other kids that haven't had children. I want to be there for them, and I want to be there for them healthy. I don't want to be just sitting there while they're playing. Like I can play back and forth with my granddaughter, and I can break dance, and I do all these other things, and I want to be able to do that. And so I am doing with my part. I can, there's a lot of things I can't control, but there are things, like I said, I can control, and I can control the way I eat, and I can control the amount of sleep that I get, how much coffee I drink. Like I have cut out, like I hardly ever have soda. I rarely have coffee. I'll try to drink tea. Like the beverages.
You're doing the right thing.
Yeah, the beverages add a lot to your.
You're doing the right thing. Anthony, I want to bring up a subject, and it's something you and I have been talking about ever since I met Randall, and we had the opportunity to speak with him. And the issue is, it's been coming up all the time, and it's not a new issue, but Randall made it really relevant to us. And it's the concept of what Randall called man pride. And it's the idea that because we are conditioned in a way to feel ultimately responsible of our own situations, that we suppress running into a brick wall when we know the brick wall is coming, and that we have to get up over it or around it. But because of how we're conditioned to be providers, and how we're conditioned to have a stiff upper lip, so to speak, that we're willing to play through the pain, regardless of what we don't know it is. And I don't know if Randall can talk more about it, but it was something that we talk about all the time now, because we run into people that they knew they should have gotten checked out. And let's hear it.
Well, I think that you've got to reverse the whole Superman, and Anthony was saying about that, the whole Superman attitude and context, because if someone as the protector, provider, oracle, that every dad wants to be, if we heard that if our kids had a heart issue, right, we'd be all over it. And we'd be like, no, you can't eat this, and no, you got to do this. And, we would be, we would have extraordinary care. We would maybe even change our eating habits in order to set a good example for them. Like, we would be proactive. But for ourselves, we don't afford ourselves that same kind of vigor to say, I have to, I have to do this for me, because we're designed, I think, in a way to be self-sacrificing. And say, it's okay, I'll take the blow, I'll do this, I want this for you. But if we're not around, our kids are going to suffer anyway. So we really have to make sure that all our loved ones are covered by having us. I mean, it sounds egotistical, but I want to believe that, my wife believes, and my kids, that I'm better their lives are better because I'm in it. So
one would think if you're there, the life would be better. That is true.
Right. So if I'm not here, so if I don't take care of myself and I'm not there, I'm actually hurting them. So maybe that's the way to get past that man pride, to say, don't worry about it, it'll be okay. My dad lived to, whatever. We can only control what we can control. And so I think that we have to have that same attitude of saving people that we have to apply to ourselves.
Okay, let me actually, I want to add on to that as well. If you think about our society and how we're raised, think about how cops are, at one point they were revered. I'm not sure about now, but it's the whole Superman. Superman, you was it back? Was it George Reeves back in the day? So Superman hits TV. You have Batman syndrome. So of course, as kids, we see that and we're like, I want to be like that. So we don't ever look at Superman or Batman or Iron Man as being, we look at them as being invincible. So we don't see that. We don't see their vulnerabilities. We never see their weaknesses. Superman had a kryptonite, but the name itself, kryptonite, sounded something far-reaching that we can never think about. It seems unattainable. Like, you don't think of it as like kryptonite for most human beings is sugar, butter, fat foods.
Right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely
alcohol, drugs.
That's
yes,
right.
Those are all modern day kryptonites. So there's plenty of them out there for them that way. but we're not conditioned to think about that because when you look at a superhero, you see them as being muscular and big and strong, and they can do anything. Like even Wonder Woman, I'll throw in a woman in the mix. She can actually, she can block bullets. Like when she would literally, you shoot at her, you see her doing the whole bullet thing. She had the invisible plane, which made no sense because here's her colored outfit. You see she's in the air, but they plane was
Yeah, with an invisible plane.
Right. She's not invisible.
But she's not invisible. The plane is.
So, but in your head, psychologically, when you adopt that principle, you too think you're invincible. So that
Right. There's no vulnerability. There's no vulnerability because you're shielded from what's potentially bad, let alone it may even be invisible. And just going to what you said, like you think about George Reeves, and but if the camera went off, he's the first guy clutching his chest, smoking a cigarette, having a beer, going, "What's the next scene going to be?"
That's true,
right? But think about it. If you're a Superman, like you can afford, you could be a fat Superman because on Kryptonite, and on Krypton, wherever you came from, the planet, it didn't really matter. And you don't really have muscles. If you're bulletproof and you got laser eyes, how healthy do you have to be? I mean, you can just run around and do whatever because you don't have to take care of yourself. You don't have to go to the gym. Now, Batman would have to, he's
technology oriented.
Yes,
exactly. He's got to be in shape, even though he's got money to back him up. It doesn't really matter, and he's got some mechanics that are happening. But if I really think now I've changed my mind after your conversation. If I was a superhero, I wouldn't really care.
Right.
I could do whatever I wanted to do, and it wouldn't matter. Like
Randall,
bounce off my belly. Why not?
Well, let me ask you a question. Were you an athlete growing up?
I was, but I always value. I mean, I played football, a little bit of basketball, but I mainly played football. But I'm 5'10", and I realized early on that
and
he's not sitting down.
You were not 5'10".
You were not 5'10". When were you 5'10"? Probably 10 years.
I was actually 5'11", and then now I think I'm 5'10". But I was a quarterback, right? I weighed 180 pounds.
When you were 16. Listen, you were 5'10". All right, continue. 5'10".
Yeah, never mind. I'm not even gonna get into that. But one of my fears or concerns, not a fear, but a fear and concern is that, I was a cornerback, and when you're fortunate enough to get the ball or to run or whatever, now you've got guys that are 250 that are, fast and in great shape. And their whole mission in life is to, ground you into the dirt if they catch you. So, I played a couple times. I figured like, this is not really me. I'm not, I can't, keep, I'm running for my life. They're running to get, the ball. I'm running for survival. Like I'm not gonna get this guy is not gonna catch me. I don't care how fast he is. I don't care if I have to run into the sidelines or into the stadium, to the seats. This guy's not gonna throw me to the ground and tackle me. So I've always been in pretty good shape. But I have
the reason why I'm asking is it's becoming a recurring theme that our Change of Heart podcast interviews are athletic oriented men.
Yep.
And it's something that we're seeing down the road is that these heart, I don't want to call everyone a victim, but people with these heart disease issues were all athletically inclined when they were younger, and they were playing competitive sports at very high levels. And whether it's you said before, whether you always think you're 20 or you think you're
right. Is it a self-delusion that you think of yourself not in your current state, but who you were a long time ago? But your heart will check you. Your heart will say, like, you're not 16, you're not 30, you're not 40. You're the age that you are, and your heart doesn't care about your ego. And so we have to adapt and say, we have to be smart about it and not let our false image of our physical self get in the way.
It's a false sense of security. That's really what it boils down to. Even guys I know in the gym, they like I recently, like Randall knows, I recently hurt my, I did a small tear to my hamstring, and then in the process, I was on the hack squat. I did a small tear on my hamstring, and I ended up hurting my back in the process because with the hack squat machine, it's the leg machine that where you're sitting backwards, so the leg comes down this way.
Right.
So when I did a slight tear, I basically forced the weights up, and it was my first week, of course, trying to do more weight for my legs. So I ended up pushing the weight back into position, which I was very happy about. But I'd say within 5 minutes of that, I felt the pain in my lower back as well. Yeah, it wasn't as if another tear was. It was right before it could go into a full tear. I just felt it kind of go, and then I stopped it and I pushed the weight up, and then I threw the weight back into place. So I said, okay, let me do a quick stretch, which it felt there was some sense of relief. But then minutes later, I'm like, holy crap! I went to walk, and my back was hurting, and I was like, holy crap! I'm officially 56 years old. Like I now know, like, you can't play around with that. And again, it's that false sense of security, or you become, I guess, delusional in that sense. You know,
well,
so,
I spoke to you minutes later. I think you might have actually been mid
I
squat.
was talking to you. I'm gonna blame
He's like, I
that.
tore
Let me
something.
blame you for the fact that I hurt.
Right. He was being, no, you had already tore it, and he was being so macho. He was like, yeah, I think I tore something. And I'm like, really? Are you okay? No, it's a light thing. It's not a big thing. I just tore a little something. It's a little tear. And I'm like, really? Like, maybe you should stop. No, I'm gonna keep going. And you know what? You could have put the weights halfway. Like, you didn't have to fully extend it to put the weights back. You know, you could, like, you go up a little bit and you can lock it in at various lengths. So
no. Where I was positioned, there was no lock. I had to literally get it because there's two settings. There's the lower and there's the upper. I was already near the upper, so I had to bring it there. If I would have brought it to the lower rings, I crushed my knees. There was no way that I could get it.
Right, because
yeah. I'm not 5'4" like you.
I was about to say but you're
5'10".
not 6'2".
He said 5'10".
You might have been 6'2" when you were 10.
5'10".
Yeah, I wish I could have hit the second one. There's no way. That's why I had to literally extend it. But again, that was a moment of clarity where I was like, I had the epiphany moment where I was like, you know something, I'm not so young. And of course, I'm just getting past the heart thing. I'm just getting past cardiac rehab. So they're like, oh, you can go to the gym now. So okay, cool. But not thinking that those weights, I was doing 345s per side at the time, where I was normally doing 6 and 7. But now realizing that 345 was probably still too heavy. You know, like
you're doing 345s on each side?
On each side. But normally prior to that, I was used to doing 6 and 7 45s per side. Now it's like
I can only do 245s on each side, and but this is, I think that we're cracking the code on something in terms of ego modification. Like, you can change your diet, but a lot of it is rooted in how are you looking at it? How quickly can you shed this idea of invincibility and this idea of this, superhuman, superhero mentality?
It's an infallibility.
That's right. I'm a regular guy. You get slapped in the face with reality. Hey, I'm just a regular guy my heart's telling me I got to make adjustments. And the results of my adjustment will depend on my mental attitude. So if I'm mentally agile enough to say, okay, time to change, I'm going to change, then I'll be successful. But if your mind lags behind, then you're going to do things like you just did. And like we all did. Like we all just don't get it.
But it was even funnier. It wasn't as if I was trying to do super heavy weight. For me, I thought it was a lightweight at that point. And obviously, I'm realizing that
it was a bad choice. It's okay. We all make mistakes. Yeah. So,
like your height, 5'10".
He's not letting that go. He is not letting it go.
5'11", actually, but
5'11", 1975.
Cornerback.
Exactly. I'll be getting taller as the show goes on. So, but this
By the end of the show, you're gonna be 7'2".
okay, exactly. But this is what we're trying to fight. We're trying to fight this male expansive ego that really does not benefit anyone if you're having an inflated view of yourself and you're not really taking your current medical condition and constraints in mind. We cannot think about when we were 10 years ago or 5 years ago, or in your case, 2 months ago. You know, when your doctor says, make a change, make the change. You're literally a different person, you know, dealing with a different condition.
True indeed. All right, so final question. So Randall, what would you tell?
6'1".
He's already growing.
You're 6'1", so you're my height now. Okay,
He's sprouted since your question.
Wow,
Very low body mass index.
Randall went from like 4'11" and 3/4 to like 6'1". All right, so my final question to you is this: what would you tell to people over 40 at this point in their life if they feel something slightly off, or even just making a change? Like, what would you say to them?
I would say get checked. And when you go to the doctor, don't let them short shrift you. My doctor was like, whoa, we don't see any signs of this, or we're going to take, like, no, I want you to do, you know, an MRI. I want you to do there's a test where when you go in and they monitor you with the, it's like a fluid that they can see in you as it goes through your veins. And when they do it with your heart, they can see how much fluid goes in and how much it comes out and the intervals in between. Make them do the test. And you may have to go a couple of times. You may have to really force them into it because, you know, if they're saying, well, you know, your condition doesn't require this, or you don't have a serious enough thing, but really advocate for yourself. Find out your present condition. Don't let a heart attack or a stroke sneak up on you because you were too lazy or polite to advocate for yourself.
I think some people
do what you would do.
You have to throw in a fear factor because there are people who and I think a lot of men who are afraid to find out what their situation is. I know plenty of guys who might have they've abused their body throughout the years. So a lot of times I would say, hey man, you might want to go to a doctor and check out what's going on. And you can tell there's fear. And again, you know, the macho thing.
Like
hey,
you.
No, I do. My annual.
You did. He told me his legs were swollen for 3 weeks. I'm like, you should go to the doctor. He's like, no, I don't know. And then I said, you should go to the emergency room. And he's like, well, maybe.
I spoke to him when he got back from Europe. I go, what's that cough? Why are you coughing?
Greg actually was one of the first people to catch it. And I was still fighting it. I was still being.
I feel great. Europe was great. Yeah. Okay.
I was focused on the trip. I wasn't focused on my health. And because I was so busy living off of Primatene mist and cough medicine that I thought, okay, I'll be fine. But then when I had that 33 pounds of water weight, that gain, that's when I was like, but I still, in my head,
we are masters of self-denial. And we really need to break that cycle. The same way that we would protect others, we have to protect ourselves. Because we can't protect anyone if we're not here. So the answer to your question is be concerned about yourself as much as you'd be concerned about others. And, you know, there's no advantage to not knowing. The only difference is, I think, if you don't know.
Greg, as a lion, is it be an advocate for yourself?
Well, if you're not your own advocate, you become your own victim.
That's right. That's right. And you, Greg, you're such a great example of, if you know when you go in and get help, they can fix it. If they know about it, they can fix it. Make them fix it, but don't wait until you're on the basketball court or you're doing something, you know, where you're exerting yourself, and then you have a stroke.
How many musicians do you know are going to die on stage?
You know, I used to think that I wanted to do that.
Oh, of course you do.
Right, because you go on the blaze of glory.
I'm telling you right now, that's it's what's going to happen to so many people I know.
Yeah.
Remember that band, The Spinners?
The Spinners.
The band, yeah, the Spinners. I think the singer might have died. Either he died on stage or he died after a performance.
Well, the most famous guy was a comedian who was in the movie The Producers, and his name was Dick Shawn. And Dick Shawn was the guy who played Hitler in Springtime for Hitler. And
Wow.
when it was after the movie, he was on a bunch of shows, on a bunch of 70s TV shows, but he was performing at a concert in California and literally had a heart attack, a coronary episode, died on stage, and people were laughing for 15 minutes.
Wow.
Nobody knew that he actually died
Wow.
because he was such a funny guy.
Right.
Wow.
That's right. And the longer that it happens, like the bit is funnier because you're
It's
not getting
funny,
up.
and they're laughing, and he's already 8 minutes into the abyss, and you know,
And nobody helps him. Nobody
helped him. Nobody, and then
wow.
you know, and maybe they could have helped him. But
Yeah,
I
exactly.
want to thank Randall again because
Thank you, Randall, very much for being
you're
on.
both a fantastic interviewer and
Yes.
an interviewee.
Yes,
Well,
you were
thank
awesome, Randall.
Thank you very
You
much.
did both sides of the mic, and I learn a million things every time I hear you talk. It's
Yep.
really.
Well, I love being on your show, and I love the fact that you guys are doing it, and you know, I just look forward to all the episodes, and you know, I'm watching all your episodes, and they're insightful, and you're giving valuable information in a space where there is a void, and you're making, you know, you're helping men come to terms with a very, very important health issue. Before it's a crisis, you know,
It is a
deal with it
crisis.
before it's a crisis. So, you know, kudos to you guys.
It is a crisis, and
Thank you.
it's part of something we bumped into by accident, and this was literally a second thought to a first intention, and
Yes.
it was something else we were talking about, and then when Anthony came back, we were going to pursue this other project, and he's telling me I have to check myself into an ER. I don't feel good, and once he got out, he goes, we're literally altering the direction of our project into what became Change of Heart.
Yep.
And if you look at our logo, the triangle represents that uphill climb from pursuing your dreams, being that male ego, being that provider, and all of a sudden you something happens, and now you're on this downhill descent.
Yep.
And that you have to alter your lifestyle, you have to change your focus, you have to change your attitude in order to continue and regain who you were and where you were. And you know, I want to thank you again, because from you talking to us, it really dialed in our gravity, our center of focus, in order to really expand upon where we want to go with it.
Absolutely. So great.
Well,
tell people where they
I
can find
appreciate it. People can find me. You can find me on
Facebook.
Facebook.
We can find you.
They can look at. We have a variety of different podcasts. Just look up Martin Navy Services on YouTube. And as you'll see on Facebook, it'll say that I'm 6'3". So
spread 7 inches.
Randall Martin, you know, educated, grew up in Brooklyn. Employed as a digital media professional, height 6'3". So with that, I thank you guys, and hey, all you viewers, watch these guys. These guys are great and informative, and your life will be improved. And you know what these guys are saying and showing just might save or prolong your life. So stay tuned and continue to support Change of Heart.
Thank you. And I'm going to close by saying we're putting a website together at changeofheartpodcast.com. We're in development now and testing out some pages. We're going to be putting up trailers for interviews. We're putting together kind of a portal so that if people have stories they want to convey to us, you can contact us to get interviewed. And lastly, we're starting to review some Change of Podcast giftware. We're looking for hoodies, and we're looking at a duffel cap. Is that what it's called?
A couple of cool bucket hats because Greg and
Bucket hat. There it is. Bucket hat. When I purchased this one 20 years ago and designed my logo, it was called a safari hat. But I'm just gonna roll with it. But yeah, stay in touch with us. Contact us. We're also on Facebook at Change of Heart Podcast, and look forward to hearing from you, growing the audience, and we hope you get something out of what we're doing here. It could be life saving.
Awesome.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, Randall.